What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Facts Boys, and I'm here for another episode of the Facts Project. Today, special guest, repeat guest. Haven't had him on in a while since we got to talk about Worlds Away. Did not get to talk about this book. God damn it, what is wrong with us? But we are here to talk about his current campaign. This is Damien Becton. Here we are talking about Sinner Takes All, and this is a different realm for you. In Try Not to Die, I felt you leaning in this direction.
Right.
And in Nottingham, I'm feeling like, okay, he's kind of getting into this mode of
Right.
superstitious, dark, mythological world
Mm-hmm.
that seems to take a little bit more shape in this storyline that you're basically putting out there. So
Yeah.
if
Go ahead.
if you could talk about Center Takes Off for a little bit.
Yeah. Like you said, it is a little bit different because every story that I naturally, I think we talked about this last time. We talked about like, hey, I grew up on Final Fantasy. I grew up on all these fantasy and video games and stuff.
Mhm.
So Center Takes All is a little bit different, but it's a story that I've always wanted to tell, or the type of story that I've always wanted to tell. It it's a human story. It's a very grounded, gritty type story, and one of the biggest inspirations of it is another video game or another even TV show that really popular is The Last of Us. I really Center Takes All is about two people. I actually cut it down from three to two people.
Okay.
Um, they at the beginning of the story they sell their souls to the devil or to a demon in exchange for all their dreams coming true. And then they get these premonitions of what's going to happen to them after they leave this world, after they leave this earth, and they get another once in a lifetime opportunity to kind of get that back. And you kind of get the feeling that this demon character, his name is Josiah. This demon
Mm-hmm.
character is kind of pulling all the strings, and he's just making it worse. He's really setting them up. But they get an opportunity to win their soul back. But the only catch is they have to commit these heinous, awful, terrible sins, and I really wanted to explore how desperate we would go, or how desperate we can get as people to
Yeah.
kind of achieve what we want to achieve, whether it's becoming a famous writer or becoming a or becoming a famous music artist. Are we
Oh
willing
man.
to go to those lengths? But yeah, I'm really excited for how it's turning out. And Sunando C, straight shout out to Sunando, dope artist.
Yeah, I like the incarnation that you chose. You chose that the character of Josiah, who was in Incarnation of the Devil, is a
Mhm.
child.
Yeah. One of the reasons that we chose it, and we had different ideas. But I wanted to kind of play with society, like what is the most what is the most innocent kind of person in our fucked up America? What would they think
Mhm.
is one of the most innocent type person? And it was like a little white kid. No
Blo-
one's gonna
Blonde
suspect.
hair, blue eyed.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to flip it and say, hey, looks aren't what they always seem. And that character Josiah chose this view because he's aware of all this stuff. He's not an idiot. He knows what it's like in America. Those are just some small things. And I'm not gonna beat you over the head with it. But that character was intentional when he chose a little blonde-eyed, blue-eyed kid
Yeah.
uh, walking around Earth.
Well, it's comes to light in some of the details of the preview pages that you highlighted in the Kickstarter. You tend to have a sense of looking over the world and seeing humans to have an aura about themselves. And
Hmm.
that is almost like the choice that the devil makes of who to strike at first. It's
Hmm.
like they're seeing somebody with very positive energy to have a glowing response to them,
Hmm.
more like a yellow aura.
Yeah.
But then the people that he sees sort of an evil in
Mhm.
are in decay and almost just looking like an unabashed mess.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that we actually worked on. I always liked the story in my brain. It was like, okay. Um, but comic books is a visual medium. You have
It is.
to there has to be something that pops out. And that was one of the last things that we added to it, was how can we differentiate this from all the sell your soul from the devil type stories was
Right.
all of us has, well, not in this universe, not everyone has a soul, because some of them might have sold their soul away already.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I thought about was like, how can we make it different? So everyone has a soul, but everyone's soul look different, and their souls, um, when the devil sees them, it reflects who they are. It reflects what they've been. It reflects what they've done in their life, but it's also reflecting what they can be. He can see that. He said, "Hey, this person, I can see this person has that desperation, some in
Yeah.
them. This kid has that fire in them. If I can push him a little bit further, I can make him even more hot-headed. I can make him even more fucked up."
Mm-hmm.
But
I like the fact that when you write into the care the I guess the emotion of hopelessness and
mhm,
how it is a take on feeding for the devil, where
mhm.
it's, he describes it as tasty and
Yeah,
delicious. You know, it's it's almost something that can be consumed.
yeah, and that's one of the things I actually really liked writing too, because I wanted to give that character a kind of a motivation. I didn't want him to just be Josiah. I didn't want him to just be this, this character or this demon type character just being evil for evil's sake. He wants their soul. He wants to not just have it. He wants to consume it. He wants to eat it. He wants to have it. He wants to be satisfied. And if we're lucky enough to get this book funded, we're going to see a little bit more about how he pushes that into he makes them even worse, or he sets them up in a way that he makes the characters even more desperate, because
Mhm.
he's just that type of dude. He's not a good dude at all. He's very manipulative, as you would expect.
Yeah.
But I did like writing that, because there's been times where I that desperation, like, hey, I think we talked about this last time, dog.
Mhm.
Like, I told you, if this comic book thing is gonna happen, it's gonna have to happen right now. I
Mhm.
promise you, man. Like, I see. Shout out to the homies, but I see all the people that I'm coming up with. Hey, they're making moves, man, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, what am I like? I said, what is wrong with my life? How come I'm not popping like so and so? And shout out to them because they're doing it the right way. But I'm like,
Not
sometimes
to
I
say
feel,
that you're not doing it the same way, because you have some very successful campaigns and you've been making
yeah,
some brilliant ass stories, bro.
yeah, I appreciate that,
In a
man.
matter of 2 years,
You're right.
like you got some
Hey,
cats that been out here for about like a good 10. And not to say that they're stagnant or anything, but it's almost like in the same mode. We're talking, 2021, 3 years. Let's just say that
yeah,
we're a couple months in.
yeah,
Not
true
too
that.
many people can say that.
Hey, dog, hey, real talk. I appreciate that because you know it's only human to get in that mode, that desperation mode. Like, hey, man, so and so's popping. Well, how come I'm not popping like so and so? And that's really where a lot of that, a lot of those motivations of these characters. Dina, who's going to be one of our main characters. Hey, she
Mm-hmm.
wants to be a writer. She wants to be published.
Mm-hmm.
I got that from somewhere. Like, honestly, that's me. I don't think I would take it that far, but I like to exaggerate these characters. I like to, you know, would I really do this stuff if I really wanted it that bad? Because I really do
Right.
want to be the next Brian Michael Bendis. I want to be the next
Yeah.
Jonathan Hickman. Am I willing to do what Dina does in this story to become a famous writer? But those are the questions that I ask, or those are the characters that I examine in this game.
Who are, aside from Dina, who is this other poor, unfortunate soul?
Uh, if I had more money, I would have put that. if I could pay Sunando a little bit more, we
Uh-huh.
would have saw a few more pages. But the other character, it's not quite the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
But his name, all these characters, I named them after students that I had. So Josiah was a student, Dina
I think
was
I
a
remember you
student.
doing that before.
Yeah,
Did you do that in the first Worlds Away?
yeah, Mackenzie and Mackenzie and Cam are my students, and Serenity. They're all my previous students.
Mm-hmm.
But this character that we meet later on, maybe like honestly, it's like 2 or 3 pages after that. He is in a similar situation, but we'll see how they differentiate, especially when they accept the second offer, where they say, "Hey, if you want your soul back, you're gonna have to do this." And I'm gonna let you. I mean, if we're lucky enough to tell that story, Dina's ready to go. All right, hey, I
Yeah.
want soul back. This other character, he's on the fence a little bit, and that's where kind of the conflict grows. That's where the story kind of develops because they only got one chance to do this thing. Are they willing to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Dina, she's Dina's my girl. She's ready to do it. But this other character, and he's a similar situation. He sees his manager
Mm-hmm.
stealing money from him, and then he's like, "Hey," Josiah's like, "Hey, I'm gonna let you in on secrets, bro. He's stealing money on you. Do what you got to do. Are you willing to do that?" And then he starts questioning everything.
Right.
So yeah, it's really fun to play around in that, especially when I have motivations like or inspirations like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever played it or watched it, but one of the inspirations was The Last of Us about how desperate people can get,
Mm-hmm.
how gritty this world can be, how hard this world can be. But it was fun. It's fun
Yeah.
writing it, and I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully, we can tell this story.
Yeah, I find it intricate that like in comic books, there's always been singular incarnations of the devil, whether it's been Lucifer or
Whatever. Yeah.
Mephisto, Malebolgia from Spawn. Shoot, even in Mad Cave, there was that title, the devil that wears my face.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So like and or even the way that this character is like being or Dina, her character, when I'm looking at those preview pages of being seduced in such a way, it almost reminds me of like M. Night Shyamalan's Devil with the elevator scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like all those people were in that elevator for a reason. And
Yeah.
you start to go through their stories one by one and how the devil just basically brought them all to be in one singular place in one time.
And honestly, yeah, I mean, that's a great comparison because one of the things that we see is that the characters don't know,
Mhm.
Dina and character that we haven't revealed yet, Desmond, his name is Desmond, they have a connection in some kind of way.
I get that.
And then, that's when it gets even more twisted.
Mhm.
That's later on down the road
I
that we
figured it
see
was
it.
going to be a crash course.
Yeah, there's gonna be there and it's weeks, months, years later down the line. Well, I would say months. I wouldn't say years, but maybe months that we see um how far Josiah planned this in advance. And he has nothing but time on his hands. He's been in this realm for centuries doing what he does. So
Yeah.
he's putting the chess pieces around, and there is a collision course on the way that I'm really excited about. But I will say we'll cross that bridge when we come to it because I'm really excited. When I came up with the ending, and the ending for all 4 issues is planned up to be 4. And I kind of I shuffled them around. This part goes here, and
Mhm.
I scrapped the ending, rewrote it, scrapped the ending, rewrote it. But what we landed on, I'm really, really excited about. And again, it goes back to those human elements
Yeah.
uh, that desperation. How we grow from our desperation. Are we able to? Are we able to pick ourselves up from such lows. So the lowest of lows, are we able to
Yeah.
do that? Are we willing to do that? And those are just some of the things that I wanted to explore. But it's fun. It was really fun.
It's funny because in reading this book and hearing you talk about this book, the the things that the pivotal emotions that you're basically choosing to talk about
Hmm.
are also draping into the characters that you're now creating.
Yeah. And that, I
So,
mean, go ahead.
have you always liked this type of stuff? I mean, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like almost like a dark fantasy. You know,
Yeah.
like
And that's one of the things that I try to do with anything, any story.
mhm,
And we might have talked about this. I know I talked about this in a few interviews. And that goes back to, again, The Last of Us. One of the things that the creator of The Last of Us says, there's complicated storytellers. There's people like Christopher Nolan who can write super complex stories about, the plot goes down for all over and back and
mhm,
forth and things like that. But the crux of Neil Druckmann, who's the creator of The Last of Us, the writer of The
mhm,
Last of Us,
right.
one of the things that he said is, for him, he writes simple stories, or simple plots. In The Last of Us, it was just Joel and Ellie, and they're trying to get to wherever. Simple plot, simple story, but complex characters. And
Mhm,
really, that's where I really try to do, because right now in my writing, I don't have the mind, I don't have the mind or the time to put together this huge plot. But I
mhm.
think I have a good grasp. And my readers probably let me know.
Oh yeah.
I think I have a good grasp of making the characters feel human. I think I have a good grasp of, making the characters feel real, making real decisions, doing something. If we're put into this crazy position, or if they have this crazy opportunity, I think a lot of the decisions that Dina makes, or Desmond makes, or Serenity, I
It's
think a
true.
lot of us would make those decisions.
One thing I've always that's always struck in a lot of these storylines, generally when somebody makes a bargain, or better yet, even a deal with the devil, is that they come to find out that the other side isn't as good as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and that's part of it.
Grass ain't always greener. Yeah.
That's the monkey's paw. I don't know if you ever.
Hmm.
And that was another thing, because I was teaching last year. I don't know if yeah, I think I did teach it last year. One of the things that I do every Halloween season is read The Monkey's Paw. But again, that's kind of The Last of Us, The Monkey's Paw, things like that. That was kind of the inspiration, but I also wanted to add that extra layer. And you see a lot of The Monkey's Paw when they get
Hmm.
what they want. Is it really what they're
Yeah.
looking for? And I hear a lot of horror stories in the comic book industry, man. Hey, I promise you, I be submitting my stories to Scout, to Image, to Mad Cave, all these places.
Uh-huh.
I don't hear nothing back. But Mad Cave
Yeah.
has a great reputation. Scout has a great reputation. Image have a great reputation. But I hear these horror stories. Hey, you sign on the dotted line. But hey,
It's
when's your book
possible.
coming out? When's your book coming out? I don't know. The publisher didn't let me know.
Hmm.
And then a lot of time the creators are stuck in some limbo.
Right.
So that's another thing that we look at too. Is this dream of yours? Is it really something that you want? Are
Hmm.
you really willing to put these things in place? Are you willing to do this in order to get a goal, to achieve a goal that you might not even like at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Uh,
Because at the end of the day, it's good to have a good brand name to back you. But
yeah.
all in all, when it's said and done, like you have many published works that
Hmm.
you've done yourself,
Hmm.
and you've self-published them because of the crowd that you've been able to create and
Yeah.
the fans you've been able to attract, who have continuously bought your stories, whether it's been issue one, two, three,
Right.
so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah. And some
So
people
it's like,
do that, man. Some
it
people,
like that's my income. Like some people
yeah.
do that for the living, and I
Yes,
get
some
that.
people just
Some
run
people are really
Kickstarter.
speedy with all that and everything. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? But that's also a goal.
That's what they do, man. Yeah. And those are two sides of the same story. Like, hey, you got some people on Kickstarter. Shout out to Pat Shan. He does all the cheeky comics, he does all that stuff, and he does like that dude, he's making a living off of it.
Bro.
He just did a Kickstarter. Dog, dog. He launched today, and he's been in the game like almost like 6, 7, 8 years. So
Mm-hmm.
he has a following, but he tweeted out today and said he had the best first day launch he's ever had. $35,000 day one. And it's not even but that's what they talk about.
Consistency. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
consistency. Like
that's
you,
what they talk about. Like, should I really want to get published, or does Dina really want to get published when she can be if, do your research, and she can self-publish, and keep your ownership of your story, and
yeah.
some people, that's what they do, man.
Look, a lot of people don't are under the assumption that commercialism can
Hmm.
be the key to prosperity.
Hmm.
But sometimes the indie route, as I've chosen to read about, has granted somebody the creative control to write the story that they want to do.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody has the opportunity to grasp the artists that they want, the editors that they want, however they want to build the comic that they want to build is generally on them. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, pretty much out of nowhere, then your base starts to grow.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden you put out 4 projects and you're like, damn, they've all got funded. They're like, I must be doing something right.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a like that's why I follow these creators like Patch and like Chris Moses. I know you did an interview with
Yeah.
Anthony Stokes. Shout out to
Yep.
Anthony Stokes, man.
Two.
He started around the same time I
Mhm.
did, and now he's building his brand. He's building his fan base, and he's getting funded like that too. That's
Mhm.
so he knows what he's doing. And
The one,
there's different ways to do it. There's no one right answer.
yeah.
Um,
The one thing I can say about all 3 of you, and note because I've talked to all 3 of y'all,
mhm.
is that you all started out with one singular book that you got funded, that was like your baby, your initial baby.
Yeah.
Chris had the Saturn Effect, Anthony had Decay, you had
Mhm.
Worlds Away. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, like, it's like the audience got taken for another ride. It's like, oh, not only that, I can also do other genres.
Yeah.
Boom, here comes Try Not to Die, here comes Nottingham, and it's like, wait, what? Like you can write this stuff and be very poignant in how you're describing everything. Like when what was it, Anthony Stokes started to do Tap or Die. It was like he just went from like this mental health strenuated circumstance of a character to a wrestling comic.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit, okay, cool.
Yeah. And he can do that. I mean, like, and those are the creators, honestly. Literally all three of them. Charles Stickney,
I'll stick
all
to
of
two,
those.
yeah.
Those are the ones I kind of emulate, or I try to emulate.
Mhm.
Because I see them doing it a certain way. And they have the mindset for that, man. They know what their audience wants. But beyond that, they tell a lot of dope stories too, man. Tapper
Yeah,
Die was dope, man.
yeah.
Um, and and I love that title, man. I remember he tweeted, uh, it was a callback to Trapper Die by Young
Rap
Jeezy.
or
So
die. Yep.
yeah, so I was like, that is one of the dopest titles I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I think he just got one of his books funded too. I think number two, Tapper, or I think it's still live right now. Tapper Die
Yeah, I
number
think it's
two.
about to finish up.
Yeah,
It's like a couple
he
days
making
away.
he's 6,000 plus, easy,
Mhm.
easy. But
But
yeah, that's the
that's also a void because I told him, I said the last wrestling comic that came out indie wise was Dual Powerbomb. So I was like,
yeah,
outside of that, it was like, okay, that went away. There's now a void in like the wrestling comic realm. It's like,
yeah.
okay, what's
Somebody's
that?
looking for that.
What's out there? Boom, done.
Yeah.
So like,
I don't know if he planned that, but that's a great shoe to try to fill, because Dual Powerbomb was my favorite comic of that year, man.
word up.
That
And
was
now look at Daniel Warren.
yeah, doing Transformers, but he's doing Transformers. Like,
And that shit looks sick. That looks insane.
Yeah. Hopefully, he was at Heroes Con last year. I'm gonna try to get him to sign something for me. That's
Yeah.
by all accounts. I haven't met him, but everyone says he's a nice guy. So.
But see, like, I remember when we first talked, and we talked about like what other genres have you always wanted to step into? Like, I don't even believe you even told me that horror was even one of them.
Yeah, yeah. One of man, and I've always had "Try Not to Die" in the back of my brain. I was such a
Which is
fan.
awesome, by the way. I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring it up
Shout out to
again.
Kenneth Laster. I'm gonna try to message everyone if y'all listening and y'all read "Try Not to Die." Tell him let's get started on issue number 2 soon.
Heard.
Um, but yeah, my dad, I remember him just watching old 80, well, it was old to me. The 80s, 70s horror movies, and those are the things that I kind of base Try Not to Die on. I remember watching Children of the Corn with my dad when I was little. I remember watching
Yes.
Halloween
Jedediah
and
and Mordecai and yeah.
Child's Play and Candyman, all that stuff. That stuff was stuck in my brain until I die. So those are the things I really wanted to call that back. Cause shout out to my dad, man. That guy's he
Yeah.
had a
That
huge
you told me
influence on me.
that's your comic hero right
That's
there.
a comic guy, man.
Yeah, word
Big
up,
old nerd. Big old nerd, just like me, but that's the
bro.
homie.
And see, that's awesome, man. The fact that he had the ability to showcase a lot of horror movies towards you. Yeah, he's a little kid, but sit him down. Like, watch this. And I'm sure it was dope at that time. You know what I'm saying? To watch Candy. How old were you when you watched Candyman?
And maybe 5 years old. And I
And he,
remember the bees and the and
bro,
the and the
he-
hook. Oh my God.
here's the craziest thing about Candyman that I always seem to put out there. Candyman, the setting is Cabrini Green Projects
Mm-hmm.
in Chicago, which was like a notorious housing projects in the middle of Chicago, like on the south
Direct.
side.
Yep.
And like literally the horror villain is has scared the entire from floor to floor. Everybody knows about old boy.
Yep. Yeah. And
Which is nuts.
that's what it is, man.
Which is nuts because any other like horror villains, like he's in a nice neighborhood, a suburb. Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
nice neighborhood. Jason Voorhees, campground. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
Candyman,
Candyman
housing projects,
straight
100 floors.
straight in the project, straight in the hood, man. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciated about it. I'm gonna admit I didn't watch the new one yet. I need to watch the new one. But
It's
real
different.
talk, that's one of the things that I really didn't appreciate until I really thought about it. Was like you said, a lot of these things in suburbs, they're in like $1 million homes, get chased in million
Yeah.
dollar homes, but
Scream. What was it? The girl was running down like a private driveway. She couldn't get
yep.
out there. There's no houses around or anything like that.
And the Candyman is boy straight up in the Chirac, bang bang.
Bro, they generations of black families not looking in the mirror and saying his name.
I still won't do it. You couldn't pay me to
No, you
do
couldn't pay me to do it. Absolutely
it.
not. Not,
Yeah.
not at all.
Shout out to Kenneth Blaster, man. That's the home. He's in I'm gonna try to get him to come to Heroes Con. He's Atlanta based.
Okay.
I'm in
I didn't
Charlotte.
know
So
that.
yeah.
I thought he was North Carolina like you.
No, I actually just connect. Because what happened was I just saw his art. I said, "Hey, man, I'm trying to do this horror comic," and he said, "Pitch it to me." And then I let him know what it was, and
Mhm.
thank God he was on board because that cover right there, I am absolutely in love with that cover.
That
That's one of the
look,
things
this is dope.
that, yeah, hopefully, that's one of the ones I actually, I pitched the publishers. We haven't had anyone bite yet. Um, we did have one, but we kind of pumped the brakes on that one. Shout out to that publisher.
Mhm.
We're kind of waiting on the right one, but I'm so thankful for Kenneth Lasser because that book is specifically the art and that cover. I think it's
Yeah.
something special. I think it's something special.
So you've done a Lost in Space family type sci-fi.
Yep.
You've done a sort of slasher type
Yeah.
joint. You are now stepping in the realm of a very dark, sinister overload of a very gothic figure in the
Yeah,
devil.
yeah.
What else you want to do?
Man, I'm after this, because I didn't want to get pigeonholed into the same fantasy type thing. So doing Try Not to Die, doing Center Takes All was very intentional. But I have something else in the works with the dope artist. There's nothing, I don't have any pages yet. I do have some character designs. I'm stepping back into fantasy, the fantasy action type world. One of the things that I think is missing
Like
in
epic fantasy?
epic fantasy
Okay.
is black characters in these huge fantasy type stories.
Mhm.
So we're gonna see a little bit of that. I describe it as what did I say? I said Avatar: The Last Airbender or The Legend of Korra meets uh, Age of Ultron, or it meets the Terminator. So it's this fantasy world gets taken over, or an AI an AI crash lands on a fantasy type world, and 15 years later, they're still reeling from that. So we get to see magic, we get to see spells, we get to see wizards, witches, dragons, but it is all contrasted with this
It's
Ultron type
yeah, it's almost
AI.
magic versus science.
And I'm really excited about that. Again, I don't have anything laid down yet, but hopefully we can get a Kickstarter running soon. Hopefully by the start of summer break for me. Then I'll really be able to focus on promoting it and marketing it.
My man. Well, hey, I appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Anytime, dog. I should have reached out to you earlier, but I'm glad
I'm I'm
I
glad
appreciate you, man.
for sure. And I know you got a couple weeks left in the campaign.
Yeah, I got like a week and a half. We got like, I think it ends on the 23rd. If y'all are listening to this before the 23rd at 11 a.m.,
Hmm.
I need y'all to do me a favor. Please go to Kickstarter, um, type, search up Center Takes All, and help us out. We're gonna need every one of you. You guys ever watch Dragon Ball Z? And he did the Spirit Bomb, and he was just asking people for some power. That's what we need right now.
His enemies just sat there and watched him
Yep, just watch them do
watched him grow the whole damn thing. It took 3 episodes, but he did it.
Yeah, probably 4 or 5
Probably 4 or 5.
episodes.
Took a whole week.
but
Oh, he ain't
but
even go that
yeah, hit up Kickstarter, y'all. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to bit.ly/ Center Takes All KS, bit.ly/ Center Takes All KS, and help us out. It's real dope. Shout out to Sunando C, who's our artist. He works
long.
for did some books for Vault. He did a book he actually did Stranger Things, an issue of Stranger Things. So that's dope.
Nice.
And he did an image book as well. I'm incredibly lucky to have him on my side.
That's what's happening, man. Well, look, man, this was great. I want to be able to push this out as much as possible. So for everybody out there, Damien Becton, go get Center Takes All live on Kickstarter for the next, I'm going to say 10 to 12 days.
Yep,
So there are opportunities out there for everybody involved to go out there and see it. Always good having you, bro. Worlds away, try not to die. Now we got Center Takes All. It's all relative. Thank you.
absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you, my dear brother, man. Thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely, anytime, man. So for James Grandmaster Facts, Damien Becton, Center Takes All, we are out.